Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome to my spoiler review for Shazam. Now I do have a spoiler-free review. If you want to check that out, there will be a link in the description below. But this is a spoiler review, and as such there's going to be, of course, spoilers in the review. So watch out if you want to be spoiled for Shazam. So going into Shazam, I was very excited for the film. Of course, those trailers were so great and got me really hyped for the film. And honestly, it did not let me down. The story of Shazam is about wish fulfillment. The wish that we wish we had superpowers. And don't tell me you haven't thought that, man, I wish I had Superman powers. Or maybe I wish I had flying powers. Those kind of thoughts, we've all had them at one point or another in our life. And Shazam is really an embodiment of that. It's a movie about a kid who suddenly gets powers and he does what a kid would do. He drinks beer, he tells his friends, he goes to his closest friend. Well, at the time it wasn't his closest friend. They had just become family, Billy Batson and Freddy. But at the time, he was the only person who knew about superhero stuff, so he went to Freddy for help. And I think that's what really started the relationship between Billy Batson and Freddy. And that relationship was really good. You really believe that they're not just foster brothers. They're friends. They're generally friends. They fight, they laugh, they have fun, they get in trouble, they get mischievous. They have a lot of great traits that make this relationship between these two foster brothers very fun to watch on screen. This movie also went places I really didn't think it would go. For instance, when Dr. Savannah enters his father's office, he kills everyone in there by the end. And that's something I was really surprised at, going so far to bite someone's head off. It was really an enjoyable scene. It really shows just how evil Dr. Savannah is. Even when he invades the Wizard's Palace, he says, "I'm not good, I'm evil." And we see that through the acts throughout the film. He is a very good villain. Now, for my spoiler-free review, I did not catch the beginning, which I didn't think I was missing much because I got late to the show. But watch the beginning. If you missed the beginning and think the villain is bad, it's not. The beginning fixes every problem I had with the movie. And on the second watch, even the CGI problem I had with the movie was fixed too. Now, I've already talked a little bit about Dr. Savannah, but what you really have to know about this character is the fact that he has a very good backstory. It's a contrast between Billy Batson and himself, Dr. Savannah. Now, in my spoiler-free review, I said the contrast wasn't too good, and that's because that's on me. I did not see some of the beginning of the movie because I got to the show late, and I didn't see that part where they gave him a backstory. They gave him when he enters to the tomb and he gets rejected by the wizard, and as a kid, if you get rejected and tell you you're not good enough, like he says in the movie, of course that's gonna make you feel very, very bad as a child. So that part really helped Dr. Savannah's character and made him a lot better. You see why he's so angry at Billy, why he wants the power, why he's angry at his father. A lot of the problems I had with the character and the villain was fixed in that first, I think it was 20 to 30 minutes. So that's something on my part. If you watch my spoiler-free review, you can ignore that. It is a great villain, and I do love the character. Now, I want to talk about Freddy and the family, of course. Freddy was a very, very good character. He felt like a real character. You know how in movies they'll have the best friend, and of course they'll fight and bicker with the main character who's also the best friend of that best friend, but it won't feel like a true relationship in a lot of movies. But in this, it felt like a real person, a real friend to someone who has superpowers. He gets jealous, he gets angry, he gets happy. It's a very dynamic relationship that I really enjoyed watching on screen, which is great because most of the screen time goes to these two, Billy Batson and Freddy. And by the end, when you see that final part during the movie with the Shazam family, you are gonna just be so happy. It is such a great scene to see the Shazam family in live action. I thought I would never see that in my whole life, and it was a fantastic scene. Speaking of family, the foster parents did a great job in this movie too. You really believe that they were foster children. They wonder what their kids are thinking, if they're doing the right thing, if they'll come back home when Billy, of course, runs away. You can see the worry in their face. You can tell that they care about Billy generally, and I like that about this film. They also did a very good job interacting with the other family members. You can see in the beginning of the movie when the foster father helps out with one of the children getting into college. That was a really great scene, and to set up this tone between them and the children, it was really great to see, and I hope honestly I see more because there are some funny scenes with those characters. Now, of course, you can't talk about Shazam without talking about the comedy, and when I watched those Shazam trailers, I wasn't really sure about the comedy. Sure, some of the stuff was funny, for sure, but it kind of turned me off to the movie. But when I watched the movie as a whole, it was very, very funny. Of course, there are some comedy attempts, I should say, that didn't really land for me, but for the most part, the comedy in the movie, like when Billy Batson goes into the bathroom and he says Shazam, he turns back into Billy Batson, that made no sense. But anyways, you guys know what I mean. That really worked from when the guy runs out. That was hilarious. Or when Freddy gets the briefcase wedgie. Or all these comedy attempts really helped the movie. And this is pretty much because Zachary Levi is such a great Shazam. You really believe that he is a kid in an adult's body. The way he acts, his mannerisms, the way he talks to Freddy as Billy Batson would. It all just comes together. And that was one of my main worries about this movie, is that Zachary Levi wasn't going to be able to bring that childlike essence that he could bring to the role. But he did, and it makes it for a wonderful performance. Now, how does this fit into the overarching DCEU? You're probably wondering, if you haven't seen this movie. If you have, I bet you probably enjoyed it. Or if you didn't, maybe you didn't. That's just your opinion. But anyways, it pretty much just throws Easter eggs here and there, like the Superman bullet, the magazines that you saw in the trailers. There was the throwing of the Batman that you also saw in the trailers. And of course, at the end, this is something I couldn't talk about in the spoiler-free review, because of course that would be spoilers. But at the end, Superman appears. And it was funny because for those who have been keeping up on the news in the past, I think like 5 or 6 months, we know that Henry Cavill may not be coming to the role. Now, it's kind of up in the air right now. It's kind of confusing. It's going back and forth, but he couldn't come to the Shazam movie because I think it was like scheduling conflicts or some weird stuff like that. But they only showed his chest from the down. And that was funny because, of course, that was not Henry Cavill in the suit. At least I don't think so. If it was, that would be even more funny. But it was great to see that. And at the end, of course, you had Shazam in there too. And one thing I really want to see is Shazam interact with Superman. I really want to see what the DCEU version of Superman would interact with Shazam. Just see how it goes and see if they mention this. Like, because this didn't really seem like something that would happen, right? I don't think this random superhero comes to Superman and says, hey, can you come to my school? I don't really see that happening in the DCEU. I can kind of see that happening in the comics. But I don't really see it happening in DCU, so it would be interesting if they try to play off of that and like maybe a throwback in a Justice League movie, Justice League 2, maybe Shazam will be in there. I can guarantee Shazam will be in Justice League 2 whenever that comes out. Overall, Shazam was a very great film. It had a great tone, it had a great message, great villains, great characters, great action, even though some of the CGI I still think was a little iffy in tiny spots, but that's a nitpick. But overall, the film was fantastic. And I think this really speaks to the overall arching vision of the DCEU, the new DCEU. I think they're gonna give light-hearted tone characters a light-hearted movie and dark characters a dark movie. And that's how it should be. They should take from their comics, especially the tone. Now a lot of people say, well, tone wasn't the problem with the DCEU. Well, that is true, but not true. Tone was part of the problem. Of course, story structure, characterizations, etc. That was a big part of why some movies didn't work. But overall, if you look at Shazam, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, they took from the comics and made their own while still keeping the true core aspects of the character from the comics. And that's what the superhero film should do. That's why the MCU is so successful, and that's why the DCU is starting to head off right now, because they're taking ideas from the comics, not just stories, aspects of the characters, and keeping them with the movie characters. That's what they should do, in my opinion. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you enjoyed it, make sure you guys subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video.